With a lot of key earnings this week, I'll break it all down, but before we get into that, there is the closing bell with the S&Ps down about a point. You can see we're getting a little bit of selling in the close. However, we are still positive on the week. When we zoom out and take a look at it from a daily, we were coming into this week expecting 62 points. 62 points up would take us to 42.42, and 62 down would take us to 41.18. However, when we take a look at these futures, put a new all-time high in, however, volume is a bit low, which tells me investors are a bit concerned near these all-time high levels. I mean, when we take a look at the earnings, we had Tesla report yesterday and it was red, so it set the tone for the Nasdaq today. However, today we have Microsoft reporting here very soon. We have Google coming out. And in tomorrow's tape, we have Apple after the bell, as well as Facebook with Amazon on Thursday. So we have some big name companies that are reporting this week, and they will set the tone for the Nasdaq going forward. And speaking of the Nasdaq, when we take a look at the Nasdaq today, it was down about 1/3%. So volume's a bit lacking here. When we look at it on its expected move, 14,191, call it 14.2, plays our upper edge. However, if we do see some poor earnings, 13.6 would play our lower edge. So it's up to these big five names. If they can get going, it's going to drive the Nasdaq to new all-time highs. However, when we take a look at the Russell 2000, it was up about 1/3% today, which wasn't too shabby. So the Russell's up about 1/4% and the S&P's flat, so technology is slowing us down today. When we look at our sectors, XLE today was up 1.2%, leading the way. We'll have to check on what crude does in a bit. So we see the industrials up 0.8%, really close to putting all-time highs and some nice volume coming into them today. And even the financials today up about 0.8%. So seeing the industrials, financials, and energy lead the way, it was enough to keep this market flat, because on the flip side, we see software stocks down 0.8%, put a little stress on the Russell. We even see the healthcare stocks pulling back a bit, down 0.5%. It's the XLK down about 1/4%, so tech was weak. However, it's our big five that's down about 14 basis points, slightly better, but we do have earnings coming out here very soon in Microsoft. I don't know what's going on yet, but we'll have to keep our eyes into tomorrow's tape, what Microsoft does, as well as Google, which Google looks like it's having some solid earnings right there. But tomorrow we'll have Facebook that will set the tone. So if Google's good, Facebook could follow, as well as Apple, which is down today, but if Apple gets going and Facebook, it's enough to lift this market higher, as well as Amazon that reports on Thursday. But when we take a look at these bonds, today the bonds were down about 0.7%, so pulling back, it's a failed breakout. The bonds aren't going higher just yet. When we take a look at the TNX, it was up 3.3%. So this is why our growth name stocks, they were a bit slow. However, the financials bailed us out. Being positive on the day, it was enough to keep the S&Ps green. When we take a closer look at volatility, the futures were down about 2%. Over in the VVIX, it's down 0.6%. So this is a good sign if you're long stocks, as volatility just kind of trended down throughout the day. But let's take a look at our dollar index and see what's going on in the commodities. Taking a look at the dollar index, it's about flat on the day and trying to find a bottom here. When we move on to crude oil, it was up about 2.1%. So crude oil is moving higher, which was a large driver in the XLE today. However, over in gold, it was down about 1/4%. And for the most part, it seems as 1776 is the new 1730, as gold rests below 1800 and just can't really find bids. But over in Bitcoin, it was up today 1.66%, snapping back strong yesterday, back over $1 trillion in market cap. We take a closer look at some of my charts. This is going to be the Coinbase chart. You can see 51.9, we broke above that. The next line here is 59.4. However, notice the crossover right there, May 3rd, as well as, wait for it, May 8th. So between May 3rd to May 8th, I'm expecting some big moves. It's too far to predict, but it's telling me volatility is around the corner. Over in the Binance chart, 54.4 is a Fibonacci, and we're slightly above that right now, as well as 52, which we broke over the weekend. The next line is 57.9 if we do want to get going. And last but not least, the Bitstamp chart, there's the crossover right there, and that's saying May 4th around 4 p.m. Eastern. When we take a look at it on a daily, it just screams to me May 14th right here. This is going to be a big volatile area. So whether we get up to here, come sideways and then break higher, or we can hug this, possibly break lower, but I'm expecting May to have a pretty volatile month. And when you just take a look at Bitcoin's seasonality, May is the best performing month for Bitcoin, as you can see, as well as October and December. It does fare really well, but if you bought those dips, you could have got in sub 50,000. So continue to stack and just load little by little, and you'll have a nice amount of Bitcoin. There you have it for the stock market breakdown. So with our indices relatively flat and quiet, a lot of traders are on the sidelines waiting to hear from the big five. With Microsoft and Google both reporting, it looks Google has done fairly well. However, Microsoft is on the downtrend. So we'll have to see if they set the tone for the Nasdaq tomorrow, as Tesla did in today's session. But tomorrow we'll hear from the Federal Reserve. The interest rate decision will be at 2 o'clock, as well as their press conference at 2:30. So it'll be interesting to see how traders interpret what Jerome Powell has to say. But if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. It means a lot when you guys can show some support. And if you're watching me for the first time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I love to do market breakdowns from a macro perspective, so show some love and hit that subscribe button. Any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you guys. But on that note, have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Peace!